Notre Dame just went into SEC country and embarrassed Arkansas in their own building. CJ Carr looked like a top 5 quarterback. The Irish running backs could not be stopped, and the defense finally showed up in a big way. We're breaking down how it happened and what it means coming up next.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome in. This is Locked On Irish, your daily Notre Dame podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak. I'm a Notre Dame alum, producer at Fox Sports, and I've been covering the Irish since 2020. Today is Tuesday, September 30th, and thanks as always for starting your day right here by making this your first watch or listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And if you have not already, be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any of our daily coverage of Notre Dame football. And today, I'm going to be joined once again by my good friend Luke Smith. And if you are new to the program, we do this every Tuesday following a game. Luke gives us his boots on the ground report from the scene because he goes to pretty much every single game. More on that at the very end. And then we dive into our 3 things we liked and didn't like from Notre Dame's performance. This week, there's plenty to like after a dominant win over Arkansas by a final score of 56-13. We're going to hit on CJ Carr's breakout game, the dynamic duo of Jeremiyah and Jadarian Price, and how the defense might finally be finding its groove. Plus, Luke will take us inside Fayetteville where Irish fans made their presence felt and Razorback fans waved the white flag by halftime. Enjoy. All right, Luke Smith is here, and last week we talked about how we hadn't really been able to fully enjoy a single weekend of college football yet this season because of Notre Dame's slow start. Well, after watching that beatdown of Arkansas to kick off just an incredible slate of college football, that's about as good as it gets for a Saturday in the fall.
No doubt about it. Just games all day, and it also doesn't help when Notre Dame wins by 40 plus points in the first window of the day. It just really sets the tone for what was a fantastic day.
What was it like from Fayetteville?
Fayetteville was awesome. I will say it's up there as one of my favorite road trips ever. I'd probably compare it a little bit to a poor man's Athens. It's a pretty campus, cool strip of bars downtown, and the people are just uncomfortably nice. I got to say, we spent most of Friday night before the game between these 2 bars, one called JJ's, the other called Yeehogs, and then had an early start.
That's such a good name. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And they also had a mechanical hog you could ride, which we all did. So that was a fantastic time. But early start with the 11 a.m. kick, and I probably should have known that this game was going to go a certain way because we're walking to the stadium, the tailgate we'd been at, and there's a shuttle of Arkansas fans that literally sees us and just pulls over to the side of the road to drive us the rest of the 15 minutes to the stadium. Get on. Everybody on it couldn't have been nicer, and I think that was a precursor to what that game played out to be because I don't blame them for doing this, but I have never seen a fan base and team quit harder than what Arkansas did Saturday at halftime. It's kind of funny because when you're in that stadium, there's an open look to it, so you can see directly into the parking lot from the seats, or at least from where I was up high. And I'm looking at halftime, and it's just everybody streaming into the parking lot. They're leaving. There's maybe 1,000 people left in the fourth quarter. I mean, I've never seen a stadium that empty, but it didn't bother me. We stayed the whole game, and then after the game, it was back to Yeehogs, and we got to watch the rest of that slate, and it was just an awesome day.
Yeah, it was truly an awesome day, and I've been looking at that specific weekend on the calendar since like June and July, right, when it's the dog days of summer and you're fantasizing about football being back and you're looking at the week of games, and September 27th was sitting there, and once it came out that Notre Dame was going to play at noon, I remember thinking like, man, this is going to work out perfectly. The Irish get to play in that first window, and then starting at 3:30 Eastern, you got Ole Miss, LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M was interesting. Indiana, Iowa was good. And then you got the heavyweights at night. Like, it was truly a perfect day of college football. And Notre Dame had to handle business to start things off, and they absolutely did. I mean, you and I were both pretty confident going into this game, more so than most, I would say. But I still never expected 56-13. Like, that's crazy.
You could have told me they were going to score 56 points, but I definitely didn't think that they were only going to let up 13. And And like I said, I do unfortunately think that Arkansas team was just so quit. Like they were quitted out. It's so you kind of can only put so much into this performance, but that doesn't mean you still can't enjoy the heck out of it because there was a lot of good that came out of this game.
There was plenty of good. So let's get into the three things that we liked. I don't think we're going to get to three things that we didn't like, not for each of us, but we were confident going into this game. You know who else was confident? That was Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Just watching his press conference, I believe it was last Wednesday in the lead up to the game. Like he's always kind of chipper. He's always cracking jokes and things like that. But you could just tell there was a different level of confidence coming from him. And I think it's because he finally has the type of offense that he wants to run. And this is the type of offense that Notre Dame fans have been waiting to see for about a decade, right? Like they haven't been this explosive since 2015. And last year, Denbrock ran the offense that he had to run with Riley Leonard at the quarterback and, some limitations on the outside. Now he gets to run the offense he wants to run, and the two most important elements in that, you got to be able to run the ball effectively. Notre Dame can absolutely do that, and they can take vertical shots now with CJ Carr. They have the personnel to do it, and even after the backups played the entire fourth quarter, Notre Dame averaged 9 yards a play on offense. They were averaging a first down per play in the first half. They averaged 5.4 yards per carry and 13.5 yards per attempt. Like that is absolutely absurd. And it's kind of a continuation from what we've seen since an A&M game. Like to put all this into perspective, Riley Leonard attempted 43 passes of 20 yards or more across 16 games last season. CJ Carr has already attempted 22 of those passes in just 4 games. Like this is a completely different offense. It's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And I really think that they could put up 40 on, and maybe I expect them to do that every single game the rest of the regular season.
They just might because they've got those running backs to boot too, who, man, they are special players. But I think you're right. And I think just the way the ball comes off CJ Carr's hand is a thing of beauty. It's been so long since we've had a quarterback who throws a deep ball like he does. And it's just kind of a cheat code because, well, I'll say that it's important to note that maybe Sam Hartman could have done this, but he was married with even one capable receiver to give it a shot. So we just never really know because we saw him do it at Wake. The difference is CJ Carr has some studs out there. And also half the time when you have a guy who can take shots, it's a flag on the defense anyway. So it's kind of just like you're drawing pass interferences, you're getting big chunk plays. And it's really just, it's such an advantage that Notre Dame hasn't had in so long. But in terms of the way the ball comes off his hand, I think the play that defines this best, there was a play he had where he's rolling out to his right. Eli Raridan's wide open for a first down. And I'm thinking, okay, he's just going to hit Raridan here. But somehow he's able to see Jordan Faison equally wide open further down the field for a first down. And he just rifles it in there for a strike and like a 25, 30-yard gain. And I was sitting next to my buddy Eddie, and he said, Sam Hartman takes the quick look to Raridan there. Riley has Raridan turn around and block for him so he can run for the first down, and CJ does that. I was like, that's pretty much it. That's the difference.
That's a good point. And he was really letting it fly to the point where I was like, all right, you don't have to go deep every single time. You drop back. And it's not like he was making poor decisions. Like if you rewatch it, there's a couple plays.
There was one pick he should have had that I don't know how that guy dropped that.
That was absolutely an interception. That guy just dropped it. It looked like he fumbled it at first, but
coachable tape.
Yeah, he could fix that. And the nice thing too is he just kind of lets that stuff just kind of roll off his shoulders. It's not like he completely forgets it and then he goes out there and does the exact same thing, but he learns from his mistakes. And I think one of the plays that stand out or will stand out for him in film, he threw it into double coverage to Jaden Greathouse, like deep down the left side of the field. He had a guy wide open underneath for 15 yards. So once he cleans those things up, the sky's the limit for him. But I'm glad you bring up Jordan Faison because that's the second thing I liked in this game. His playmaking ability is really underrated. And looking back, Jordan Faison really flew under the radar like throughout this entire offseason. There was so much buzz around Malachi Fields because he was new. He had already produced at a high level at Virginia. Big body wide receiver that Notre Dame really needed. And then plus Jaden Greathouse had sort of carried all of that momentum after his 2 big games in the college football playoff. And then you got Will Pauling, another transfer who was elected captain. And yet it's Jordan Faison who is leading the team in receptions through 4 games. He has 19. Malachi Fields and Jeremiyah Love are tied for second with 13. He's averaging 12.8 yards per reception, already has 2 touchdowns. He can also throw the ball a little bit, threw that dime to Malachi Fields in the fake punt. and he's been effective as a punt returner. So he has really elevated his game to an entirely different level this season. And on an offense that's loaded with weapons, especially at running back, Jordan Faison has become a go-to target.
I think you got to give him a lot of credit too, because last year we saw a lot of instances where he'd maybe make a nice catch downfield, but he would just get tackled way too easily with ankle tackles or just like a guy getting an arm on him. He'd go down. He's clearly worked on his strength, because you're seeing him able to bounce off tacklers a little bit better this year and really just be kind of a complete yard after the catch machine. And I think you got to give him a lot of credit. He clearly put a lot of work in this offseason to get to that point. And you're right, he's a total weapon, both as a receiver and as a punt returner, and as you just said, doing fake punts too.
Yeah, and he can pass.
Yeah.
I had flashbacks to Boobie Miles' dad in Friday Night Lights. Also, one other thing that he's really improved on, he only has one drop this season. Last year he had 6. Like, it was a big problem for him last year, let's be honest.
Well, it was a problem for the entire receiving core last year. I think they led the top 25 in drops last year. So, yeah, they've definitely gotten better on that front.
I know, and I felt like all the wide receivers were making plays in this game. Like, Jane Greathouse came through with an awesome catch down there on the sideline, goes up in the air, makes a great play on the ball. Malachi Fields is doing his thing. He tried to do his best Jeremiyah Love impression with a hurdle early on in the game. It did not work out. Let's leave the hurdles to Jeremiyah Love, and even he should probably cut down on them a little bit. But it really just goes back to the offense that Mike Denbrock can run. Like, they are so loaded across the board, and even the offensive line, I feel like, took a huge step forward. It's hard to really judge their performance going up against an Arkansas defense that was just awful, just so bad across the board, especially on the line of scrimmage. But everything seems to be working right now on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and let's talk about Jeremiyah Love, because that guy's greatness is it's something else. And I'm not sure if he had something personal against Arkansas, but he sort of seemed like he came out like a man on a mission with some of the stiff arms he was throwing out there that day too. But he's catching passes for touchdowns. He's running the ball in the end zone. Had 2 touchdowns of each kind, both through the air and on the ground, which I saw this on the bottom line after when I was at Yeehogs, and I had to look this up again tonight because I'm like, did I just see that wrong after spending a little bit too much time there? He's the first Notre Dame player to ever achieve that feat. That's pretty ridiculous to me.
2 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns in the same game.
Yeah, and he did it in the first half, by the way.
That's true. He actually got a few carries late in the third, and I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
put him on the bench.
But I will say that performance, and like the majority of it did come in the first half. I think it was especially special because there was a pretty cool College Game Day segment on him and his parents that was featured that morning. He kind of opened up about some of his vulnerabilities, and I thought that for him to have that performance after that was really cool.
I'm with you. It did look like he was playing like a man possessed and he was really pissed off, but I feel like he's been running like that ever since the Miami game. He was kind of held in check, partially because Miami's defense looks really good, and I mean, they've been really good all season long, but also because Notre Dame just didn't give him the ball nearly enough, not as much as they should have in that game. But yeah, man, he's just been running with an absolute vengeance this year. And then you've got Jadarian Price right there. So whenever the defense, gets a little bit tired of Jeremiyah Love, here comes Jadarian Price just running like a freight train. And he's another player who, now looking back, I think we really underrated going into this season. I was doing top 5 lists of players on the Notre Dame roster, and obviously Jeremiyah Love was going to be number 1. And I don't remember ever talking to someone, I kind of asked different people, what do you think about this going into the top 10? Jadarian Price was like a fringe top 10 player. I don't know how you could not include him in the top 5 at this point.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the guy is just so efficient and so explosive. He's easily one of the top 5 most productive players on the team.
Right. And now I'm just hoping that someone and the Notre Dame boosters, the collectives, I hope they come through with a mega bag to drop off at his door at the end of the season. Although if he keeps playing like this, then he's almost certainly going to the NFL.
It's gonna be tough to convince him, but we'll see.
Luke is going to be right back here with us in a moment to break down how the Notre Dame defense took a big step forward in their game against Arkansas. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly known as Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines computer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly known as Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's quo.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, we have gone through this entire time without giving our props to the Notre Dame defense. We absolutely should, because we have spent a lot of time criticizing them. I would say fairly criticizing them through the first 3 weeks of the season, but they really stepped up in this game. And I go back to something I said earlier. If you had told me on Friday of last week that Notre Dame was going to hold Arkansas to 13 points in regulation, I would have thought there is no way in hell, because Arkansas had lit up the scoreboard against everyone they played. And if you watch that Ole Miss LSU game, Ole Miss won that game because of their defense. Typically with the Lane Kiffin team, you'd expect them to just light up the scoreboard on offense. They didn't. That is a legit defense over there. And Arkansas moved the ball at will against them. So the fact that Notre Dame's defense was able to contain them like they did, I mean, yeah, the circumstances are a little bit different considering Notre Dame was blowing them out. I think that game is more impressive after the fact, after seeing what teams like Ole Miss did and how Arkansas's offense played against them relative to Notre Dame.
I think it's definitely impressive, and I do think that this was the first time we've seen that pass rush really impact the game, and I think Taylor Green was impacted. There were a couple drops for sure early on that helped, and I don't want to dismiss that. But I think that some of those throws weren't great because they were getting a better rush on the quarterback, and that's good to see, because we just hadn't seen that. And we saw guys who made plays in the college football playoff last year, like Drake Bowen, like Gabe Rubio, like Adon Schuler, make those sort of plays again. And that was the big thing to me too, because it had just been too long since we'd seen that.
Right, and Boubacar Traore came up big in this game as well, had a sack and then stuffed Taylor Green. They got to figure out the read option, but I don't think Notre Dame is going to play a quarterback who has the running ability of Taylor Green the rest of the season on that long run, which, by the way, I actually thought that Taylor Green stepped out way earlier.
I don't know how they didn't overturn that.
They reviewed that, and it looked pretty clear and obvious to me, but that goes to, or that falls on Jordan Botelho, because he just went with the running back and left that lane wide open. But overall, I thought the Notre Dame defense, they did benefit from a couple of those drops early on, but they were disciplined. They were flying around, and it was like, okay, that looks like the Notre Dame defense. And guys who had not played particularly well at the start of the season, like Mark Zachary, true freshman, filling in for Leonard Moore, like I thought he was outstanding in this game. I don't know how much we're going to see him once Leonard Moore returns from his injury, but it's just great to see the improvement week to week, because things were so bad at the beginning, and I just felt like there's no way they could keep this up forever. We've already seen these guys play at a high level, and it looks like we're finally seeing them come back to form.
Yeah, and I think that that's something you have to give them credit for too, because the last thing for me is it's really easy, especially as a fan, to get too low with the losses and too high with the wins. And maybe we don't give players enough credit for just staying in the fight and just keeping it going. And the way the season started, I think it probably would have been easy for Notre Dame to not have as sharp of a performance as they did on Saturday in Fayetteville. I'm not going to say it would have been easy for them to lose, because I mean, that team just quit. That they did. Like, we'll leave it at that. But as long as this offense keeps playing the way they have been and the defense keeps improving, they're going to be a joy to watch. And that's really all I care about, is a fun, entertaining product. And if you stay in the fight and keep stacking up victories, everything else takes care of itself. Just take control of what you can control, basically. And this has been pretty fun to watch, especially on offense the last few weeks. And now the defense is getting there. This is going to be a team that we look forward to watching every week.
Without a doubt. But how much of the defense's performance do you think is translatable week to week? Because I'm not ready to just say, okay, that's the defense we're going to see every single game the rest of the regular season. I need to see them stack a few more performances like that. I mean, Boise State has put up a bunch of points on some bad teams. USC as an organization is a mess, but they still have some really talented players on offense. I feel like the offense on Notre Dame is going to put up at least 40 points every week. But how would you rate your confidence in this Notre Dame defense after finally putting together a full 60-minute performance?
So if it's on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say like 6 right now. Honestly, the thing is though, I do think this schedule is getting a little maybe 2021-y potentially, where the back half of the season, you're just going to see some bad quarterbacks or some backup quarterbacks. And what I will say is that I don't think Boise State's offense is very good. I know they've scored points the last few weeks against some bad teams, but I'm not very concerned about next week. And USC, they've got incredible receivers, better receivers than Arkansas has, but I think Taylon Green's better than Jaden Maiava. I mean, if Jaden Maiava was good, I think Mekhi Lemon would have 350 yards a game receiving. But he's just not. He's not as good as Taylon Green is, I don't think. So not to say that USC won't be able to put up points on Notre Dame. I'm sure that they will. But I kind of think that to some extent, you may have seen as tough as it's going to get in these first 4 games here.
So Boise State put up 51 on Eastern Washington, 49 on Air Force, and 47 on App State, but they put up a whopping 7 points on the South Florida Bulls.
And how many did they let up to Air Force?
37.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Notre Dame's schedule really just kind of takes a nosedive after that USC game. Like going into the season, you knew the second half was going to be easier, but based on how these teams have fared early on in the season, Boston College looks awful. Navy is Navy. Pitt is Pitt. And then Syracuse at one point actually looked like they were going to exceed expectations with Steve Angeli. He tears his Achilles, and then Stanford is probably one of, if not the worst team in the Power Four.
Hey,
so
they beat BC, so you got to give them that.
That's true. And they beat San Jose State, so maybe they're turning things around over there in Palo Alto. But Notre Dame's got Boise State. I think their defense will be tested a little bit. Not too afraid of NC State. But that USC game, I feel very confident Notre Dame is going to win that, but they're going to give up some points, man. Mekhi Lemon is a stud. And USC always has that one wide receiver, and he just looks like the next great one in line there.
Right. And it sometimes it doesn't matter. Just like in 2021 with what's that guy's name?
Drake London.
Yeah. I mean, 200. Did he have 200 receiving yards in that game?
I'm pulling up the box score right now. That game was ridiculous because Notre Dame won 31-16, but they had no answers. So Drake London, this is so good. Drake London finished that game with 15 receptions for 171 yards. The next closest receiver had 2 catches for 38 yards. Yeah, Drake London was their entire offense with Keaton Slovis at quarterback. And Notre Dame was in total control in that game. But I just remember feeling like completely hopeless because he's still, like, Drake London didn't have a touchdown, but there's nothing that Notre Dame could do. They double teamed him and it just didn't matter. And I don't know if Mekhi Lemon is quite the physical specimen that Drake London was, because Drake London is just so big. Mekhi Lemon is more of a speedster. But you also got to worry about Jacoby Lane because he's been out with some, I don't know, weird undisclosed illness or something over there at USC. But if they get him back, they're going to be pretty dynamic.
Potentially, for sure. They'll be able to put up some points, but we'll see. We'll see what happens after they play Michigan.
Yeah, if nothing else, that will be a real litmus test for the Notre Dame defense going forward. But coming off that, I do want to segue into the things that we didn't like from the weekend. Obviously, when Notre Dame wins 56-13, it's really hard to nitpick that performance too much and find too many things to get upset about. But was there anything that stood out to you on Saturday that, frustrated you a little bit?
I think the only thing, and this is kind of picky, I just wish they had a little bit more trust in CJ Carr going into Miami. And this is definitely hindsight 2020. I don't know how you have any way of knowing this without ever seeing him in real game action. But I just wish they had taken some more deep shots in that Miami game and given Fields, Faison, and even Greathouse. By the way, he had one catch on Saturday, but it was a great one. Just a chance to make plays downfield. I know Ruben Bain and Mesidor would have been difficult to block, but we took maybe one shot in that game, and Malachi Fields made a great catch. I wished they could have done a little bit more on that front. And like I said, there's no way they could have known he was going to be this good this soon. But I'm just a little curious how that game goes if the Irish were firing on offense like this from the jump.
It is amazing how different this offense looks now compared to that game, or even in the Texas A&M game compared to Miami. Like, not just in terms of the way that the players are executing, but Mike Denbrock called a game that was basically for like two different teams. Although Notre Dame did run a lot of screens in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out it works when you don't have Bain and Mesidor, or honestly, if you just don't have a defense out there either. But yeah, no, it is. It looks like it's night and day.
I honestly think it has everything to do with the fact that Mike Denbrock just didn't have any confidence in his offensive line going in, or whatever confidence he did have in that group went away quickly because they just were getting bullied especially by Ruben Bain. And then you consider the elements, and Knapp was out and Emil Wagner was clearly physically compromised. I just don't think he trusted them and was probably trying to protect Carr a little bit too much. But I mean, I've talked about this before. How many college quarterbacks would you take over CJ Carr right now? It's kind of hard because it's still pretty early. There aren't really any guys who have like completely separated themselves, but I think it's safe to say he's already in the top 5.
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting to hear the national perspective on some of these other guys like Dante Moore and even Ty Simpson, because I'm sorry, I just still don't really see it with Ty Simpson even after the other night. I think he's fine.
Looked good against Georgia, though, especially
I think he's fine. I think he's fine. I don't think he's better than CJ Carr. I'll tell you that much. And then Dante Moore, tough to say. Penn State's got a really good defense. Made some plays late, definitely to help win that game. But I'm not taking a lot of guys over him, if any.
The only one who I'd say definitively I'd take him over Carr right now is John Mateer if he were healthy. But maybe it's just because I like watching him play.
Yeah.
But it's probably a lot different as a fan who is just watching him as like a casual observer. Whereas like if I were an Oklahoma fan, I'd be worried he was going to get hurt every single time he dropped back because he's just so reckless.
Yeah, and his numbers are never that great, honestly, either. Now, granted, I don't know how great the rest of Oklahoma's offense is, but I think he's more of just kind of like a vibes guy than an actual like quality, like he's like going to be some stud NFL quarterback.
Luke and I still have more to get to, including a nitpick that I have about the Notre Dame defense, and plus we have a couple things we need to get off our chest before we wrap things up. But before we get to all of that, I want to tell you about a great new promotion courtesy of our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. All right, here's my pick for this week. I know we have gone 0-2 on the last Thursday Night Footballs, but I'm going to take the 49ers plus 4.5 against the Rams this Thursday. We're going to have to get back in the win column, and I think the 49ers are going to take us there. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. I do want to nitpick something from this game, and it's not necessarily specific to this one performance. I think you could kind of include it just the way that the season has gone. Notre Dame's linebackers outside of Kingston Viliamo-Asa have been a little bit disappointing. And that is relative to the expectations that I had and many others had for this group going into the season. Like, I thought they would be elite. I thought Jalen Sneed was going to take his game to another level. As a senior, Drake Bowen would take a huge step. KVA would be a great player. And honestly, KVA is showing that he could be. And Jane Osbury and then Matt Framo. Like, they've been solid. They haven't been bad, but they definitely have not lived up to those lofty expectations. KVA has been great. Bowen had a nice game against Arkansas, but Notre Dame's two lowest graded defenders who played meaningful snaps in this game were Jalen Sneed and Jane Osbury. We just haven't seen it from Sneed this year. I would say part of that has to do with the fact that Ash has not used him appropriately. I think Sneed should be just rushing the passer way more than he has been. And our guy, Greg Flamung, pointed out that the entire linebacking unit has a grand total of 1.5 tackles for loss against the run through 4 games. That's not exactly the production you'd expect from a group that was supposed to be elite. Matt Framo is getting a lot more playing time now. I thought he had another strong performance. He wasn't out there a ton. But this group has basically gone from being could be elite, could be one of the best linebacking corps in the entire country, to just solid, and that's not really where I expected them to be at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they were great against Miami. I don't know that they've been bad.
Right, they haven't been bad.
It's just, Yeah, you'd like to see them make a few more plays here and there. And maybe that's the next step in this defensive progression as they kind of break through next week. Because I think even Kingston Viliamu probably has a couple plays from this past Saturday he'd like back. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe that's the next step in the progression. And I don't know if it's just a scheme thing or whatever. They're not fitting in it, but we'll see as they seemingly found some level of improvement on Saturday. Hopefully this next Saturday we can see some more.
Yeah, and like I said, I recognize this is nitpicky, but the defensive line played great, especially on the interior. Like, that's maybe the best game we've ever seen from Gabriel Rubio. Cole Mullins was getting in there because Donovan Heinisch was limited as he recovers from a shoulder injury. On the edges, they were solid. Secondary was much improved. So if we're talking about how the linebackers are just good, not great, that's a pretty good place to be, and not one that we've been able to enjoy at any point so far this season.
Yeah, no doubt. But you got to find something, right? And that's where I'm going to, because as I made pretty abundantly clear, really enjoyed Fayetteville. The Little Rock Airport Chili's, however, I will say, service was phenomenal. Not a waitress or waiter problem whatsoever. They were great, but I've never seen a TV setup so screwed up. It was, I guess maybe DirecTV, but it was one of those things where they had 12 tiny little boxes on the TV, and 8 of them were college volleyball games, and they didn't have any NFL games on. Asked about it a number of times. They just couldn't figure it out. And, there were all sorts of unique people taking refuge there alongside us, and it made for an interesting handful of hours waiting for our flight. So, again, I had to find something to complain about, I guess. I feel bad, honestly, even doing this, but they need to figure out their TV situation there.
Look, as two of the biggest proponents of airport Chili's across the country, we have to call it how we see it. And if there's an airport Chili's that's not living up to our standards, we have to call it out. I can't fathom how at every single bar and every single restaurant, when you ask a worker, hey, can you change the channel? It's like asking them to run a marathon. Like, they just are simply not capable of that sort of pressure. It's like the stadium pulse in the EA college football game. They just can't figure it out. And it's universal. And apparently it is a problem at the Fayetteville Airport Chili's as well. I'll never understand it.
Yeah, the standard is the standard. And the standard was not met that day.
Just like the linebackers, when our expectations are this high, as they are for every airport Chili's, and they don't live up to them, it is our responsibility to point it out. It is also our responsibility to point out when people in the national media are really annoying about Notre Dame. And that is really the last and the only thing that I really didn't like about this weekend. So just humor me with this rant here as we close things up. The pre-bitching about Notre Dame's playoff resume is awful. There's nothing like people getting mad about something that hasn't even happened yet. And after Notre Dame just pummeled Arkansas in their home field, all the Notre Dame fans are just happy to enjoy the first Saturday of the college football season when they could watch their team put together a complete performance and get the win. For some reason, several people in the national media, their immediate reaction wasn't, oh, wow, good win for Notre Dame. It was, oh, no, the discourse about a 10-2 Notre Dame playoff team is going to be exhausting. And I saw it from the usual suspects like Ari Wasserman, Bud Elliott, and others, plenty of others too, actually. But here's the thing. I didn't see a single Notre Dame fan mention the playoff after that win. Not one. They were just excited that the team looked good. And then I saw Ari and these other guys basically defend their position, or the fact that they're even talking about it, by insisting that everyone else is obsessed with it. That's not the case at all. You are obsessed with it. You are the ones putting it out there, and Notre Dame fans are just trying to enjoy the win. One of the few things that is worse than people complaining are people complaining about something that hasn't even happened yet or is a hypothetical. It drives me nuts, and it was a prevailing theme across the board from people in the national media after Notre Dame won. So rant over, just had to get that off my chest.
Yeah, it's definitely a waste of oxygen from all those people, and the logic doesn't really make sense because it was basically, USC lost, so that means I guess they're going to lose all the rest of their games now, even though they could just turn around and beat Illinois and be ranked once again. But I'm not even saying that word until November, the word that you've said a couple times here, because I just don't care right now. Like I said the last time I was on the show, I want to see us start playing better, starting to see that, and I'm just trying to enjoy the experience. But you also can't be surprised because Cover 3 does a pretty good job of covering some of the games and analyzing, but they have a whole segment on Sundays where they go through everybody's AP top 25 ballot and just criticize people that they feel don't vote correctly or don't vote accurately. Do you know how bored you have to be to do that? Nobody cares. The AP poll does not mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And then they're on there complaining about how they were up till 2 a.m. writing after doing a show. Well, maybe if you didn't put out content that nobody gave a shit about, it'd be all right. I don't know. I mean, just like, anyways, I just think the arrogance that's displayed on there sometimes is a bit much, and that's another prime example of it. So
wow, so 2 dueling rants to close out the show. I didn't expect that. I knew I had a lot to say about the playoff conversation because, again, that was not coming from the Notre Dame side at all. I didn't see one Notre Dame fan say, okay, well, good win against Arkansas. How does that help the playoff resume? That was not the case. It was just a fun Saturday. We're all trying to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Just enjoying the day, and I don't know. It always seems to trend in that direction. And it's always the guy in the hot dog suit saying, we're all trying to find the guy who did this. So there we go.
All right, before we go, I have to ask.
Yeah.
Do you care to comment about the accusations that your trust fund baby, who is also anti-booze, that was circulating last week. We got a mailbag question about you being a trust fund baby. We had some comments saying Luke is anti-booze when you and I both have been advocating for public alcohol sales in the stadium since we started doing Sons of Saturday back in like 2020. So just a wild turn of events. We've had to talk to our PR department about helping out your image a little bit, but we haven't had you on to confront these accusations.
The second one, I stand by what I said about that. People need to figure out how to drink appropriately within the stadium because that was just a bunch of amateurs out there basically and just getting up and really disrupting the game flow. It has nothing to do with having alcohol in or out of the stadium. Just learn how to do it better. The first question, can I say I wish I was? Like, I mean, what kind of question is that? Absurd. No, it's called, learning how different airlines work and finding cheap, efficient flights that might be at the crack of dawn and having to wake up at 3 a.m. for them and, using airline points and credit card points. Yeah, that was a wild question. Not going to lie. I wish I was, buddy, but I definitely am not. So there we go.
That was funny. I thought it was good. And the guy, his tag was like Irish Chris responded. He's like, I didn't mean to offend Luke. I'm just genuinely curious. And I'm just thinking, look, man, Luke is committed. He is going to do what it takes to be there, be loud, and he's going to be there this weekend when Notre Dame takes on Boise State.
Yeah, sure will be. Should be another fun day. It looks warm for early October in South Bend. It's going to be like in the 80s, I think, but should be good.
What games are you not going to this year?
I'm not going to NC State. I am not going to Pittsburgh. Don't have any desire to see an NFL stadium or another one. And I'm not going to Stanford.
I was just about to say, there's no way.
Yeah, that doesn't move a needle. And then I think we'll see about the November home games. I'll probably go to both those, but not sure yet.
Yeah, I think you'll be there. And we're excited to have you back next Tuesday after Boise State. Hopefully another win just as fun as this one. We'll see you then.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
All right, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Irish. Thanks again for making this your first watch or listen of the day. And if you enjoyed the show, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube, leave a like, and rate and review the podcast wherever you may be listening. Don't forget, I'm going to be doing another mailbag on Friday, so drop your questions in the YouTube comments or send them to me on X at Locked On Irish or on Instagram at Locked On Irish Pod. I always seem to get more questions after a loss than a win, but hopefully that changes this week, so remember to get those questions in. I'm going to be back tomorrow with a full preview of Notre Dame's upcoming matchup against Boise State. Also, be on the lookout for Locked On's college football kickoff show this Thursday, only available on Fire TV. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.